My name is Peggy Grisiowski. I'm a member of the Steady Stitchers Home Extension Club, and today I'm going to show you how to construct one of our quilts in the Quilt As You Go method. We have several different quilts that are made with this method. I'm going to show you one of the methods for one of the type of kits. As you become more accustomed to doing this, we have other kits that are more advanced with borders and fancy stuff. But today we're just going to do the basics. It's just putting together the pieces. If you are participating in our Lend a Hand at Home Day, you've already picked up your packet. If you don't have a packet and want to participate, you can pick one up by contacting the extension office and they will give you the information on how to get one. If you have your kit, you'll notice that in this kit you will have A is the backing fabric, B is the batting fabric, and C is your cover fabric. You also are going to have Quilt As You Go instruction sheet, a pin return, a baggie to put all these little papers back into, and a washable marking pen. Now, we use a lot of different kinds of batting. Your quilt may not have this kind of batting. You may have all nice, uniform, nice batting. This one happens to be an old mattress pad that was donated to us. Some of them are going to be patched together, if you can see where that's been sewn together. If you're going to patch batting together like this, make sure that your smooth side and dimpled side are consistent so that it washes well. Now, you're going to start constructing your blocks. You're going to need an iron, and you're going to want a ruler. You're going to start with your backing piece. Your backing piece is going to be 2 inches larger than your batting and your cover piece. If you don't have a grid map like this, you can just measure it with your ruler by just laying it on there. And what we're going to do is we're going to mark our stitch line. Our stitch line is going to be 1 inch in from the outer edge. So we're just going to make a mark. This is a washable marker. And all 4 sides. So this is a 14-inch square. These are 12 inches. So I'm going to, now I've made a 12-inch square. I'm going to lay this in there and just kind of smooth it down. Then I'm going to take my cover and lay it on top. Smooth it down. It doesn't have to lay in there perfectly. We're going to trim that later. Then you need to pin this in place. You can also use basting spray, which I guess I'll show you how to use that. If you take your basting spray, you'll need to put paper towel down to catch your overspray. This is a home concoction. If you want the recipe for this, you'll have to call the extension office and they'll tell you how to get a hold of me. Just lightly spray. Lay your batting on top of that. Lightly spray it again. this on top of that. Even if you're not using basting spray, which I almost forgot, you still need to give it a good press. Pressing kind of helps the layers hold together. Because you've used basting spray, it is kind of a glue, so you want to use something to protect the surface of your iron. This is just parchment paper. You can use a pressing cloth or whatever. Just need to give it nice, even press. This is steam. And then turn it over. Press it from the back. If you're using a basting spray, you need to press it from the back. If you're not using the basting spray, pinning is fine. You don't need to press it from the back. Okay? So, now this is all kind of stuck together here. Okay? I do put a couple pins in it just in case it might slide. So, now you're ready to quilt. You can quilt these any way you like. If you're a beginner, I suggest you keep it simple. And the way I suggest for beginners is just a simple, straight, you can see it's just straight lines, about 1 inch apart. So that we just do them all that way so that you don't have to worry about what kind of batting you might have gotten in your kit. So, in order to get your lines like this, I put it back on the grid. I line my ruler up. See where I've got my 1 inch mark there and there. I'm just going to take this marker and I'm going to mark where I'm going to start my stitches. And then again on this other side, line up the edge and 1 inch marks. Okay, we're ready to take this to the machine. Now, if you're more an experienced quilter and want to try something more adventuresome, I'm going to show you a couple of other ways you might want us to quilt this. Okay, here we've got several examples of quilts that have been quilted. This one, you notice that it is stitched squares within the square and then around the outside. This one is a 4 square and it's just stitched into 4. We knew that this batting was a nice batting, that we didn't need the 1 inch, but you would be told that if that was a possibility. This one uses a fancy serpentine stitch. Another example is to stitch around each little square. This one is kind of like a sampler. We've used it in contrasting threads so that you can kind of see the different ways that you might be able to quilt it. Go ahead and be creative. We like our quilts to all be different. C is a cover that you need to construct. Usually all the pieces are going to be in there and there will be some sort of instruction on how to put them together, and whatever size your batting is for your quilt, and that's going to depend on how big the quilt needs to be, and it'll tell you what size block you need to make. So if you want to get those blocks made up now so that we can move on to the next step. Okay, now that you have all of your covers sandwiched with your backing, you're ready to actually quilt. Now, I recommend this is a walking foot. You can do without a walking foot, but this just makes it smoother, run a little smoother. I also want you to notice See the lines that I have drawn here? They're just drawn on, this is tape that's stuck on here. When I'm done, I can just pull all the tape off, so I didn't actually mark up my machine. But these are 1-inch increments. They're going to help guide me through as I'm quilting this in rows. So you're going to start in the middle. Somewhere in the middle. Doesn't matter where in the middle. Line up. Now, you don't want to quilt any more than 1/4 inch of this mark right here. Okay, and you'll see why later, the next step. You want that free and clear to be able to pull this back. Otherwise, you're going to have trouble joining. So I'm going to line this up, lining up with this line over here, and I'm about 1/4 inch in. Come back up, just secure. And secure it at the other end. But I'm going to turn it around, pull it through. I usually clip that, but we're good. Start it. Now, you see where I've got this line way up here. It's a little harder to hold it at that point. All right. Just keep it steady. I do not run over pins. It's hard on your machine. It's hard on the pins. And it could be hard on you if either of those pieces fly out and hit you. Okay. I usually take it off and see how much it tends to be bunching and gathering. Anytime you quilt, there's going to be some amount of bunching and gathering that takes place. You just need to make sure that it's not twisting too much. Now, you've got about a 1/2 inch leeway on this. Remember I said to leave this open so that you can get at that area there. Okay, so we've left enough space there. It doesn't have to be even. Just get the 2 layers stitched together. Okay. If it seems to be twisting or matting up, this one looks pretty good. But if you've got any more of this kind of stuff, you can go take and give it a press, steam it, and steam it back into place. That helps. So now it's going to be really difficult to get some of these other lines in there. You've really got to watch the spacing. If you're not very good at spacing, you can actually take chalk or a light pencil and draw the lines that you need to stitch on. But try it this way. I think it's much easier this way than any other. You notice I'm not doing every square as I go. I'm doing at least every other or every third one. This is so that you get a little balance to it. Not running over my head. Okay, now that you've got this all quilted, you're going to want to clip all these threads with. You should have back stitched on all these, so clipping them close shouldn't be a problem. Then turn it over. Okay, just get them all trimmed up. You don't want all these extra threads hanging. Now we're going to give it a good press from the back side. Turn it over and press it from the front side. Steaming helps. Now, that kind of got it. You can see how it's all looking all quilty. Now, you notice that this traveled, the batting stretched a little bit. It's kind of off, just twisted just a tiny bit. We can fix that. I'm going to come back over here. We're going to lay this on our grid. Line up that corner. We're going to pull this back. That one looks like it's still on the line. That looks good. Now we're going to do this side. We're going to pull it back, and you can see how much it traveled. So we're going to take our guide. Make sure that your batting fabric is pulled clear away. You cut into your batting fabric and you're going to have to start over. So I take a wheel and just put on that line. And now you'll see that it's right back on that stitch line where we want it to be. Okay, if you don't have a grid like this to put it on, you can lay it like this and pull it back, and you can see how much that is off. Lay your ruler here, take your marking pen, mark it. Okay, with the marker, then just use your regular scissors to just trim it off. Now you should have, oh, we got one more side to do yet. Lay it in there, pull it back. Now your piece is squared up within the perimeter that it needs to be. Now, if you want to go ahead and pause the video and get all of your blocks completed, and then come back to the video and I'll show you how to join the blocks together. Okay, now that you have all your blocks constructed, some of your kits are going to have 9, some are going to have 12, depending on how large we want the quilt. You need to join them. You need to look for orientation. If you have an up or down fabric, this one is not up or down. It's not, there's no right or top or bottom to it. Neither does the backing. That's the one thing you got to look for. Now the next thing you want to look for is make sure that your lines on your stitching are going in the same direction. We're going to line them up back to back. I'm going to take pins. I'm going to make sure that my 1-inch lines are lined up. I'm going to put a pin out here. Put a pin at the middle, but I'm going to go through all of the layers. And another pin out here for just a little bit of extra security, because this will slip, especially if you don't have a walking foot. Now we're going to stitch on that 1-inch line. Now we're ready to stitch this. If you'll notice, I have my 1-inch mark here on my sewing machine. And if I put my fabric on that 1-inch mark and put my needle down, it goes right on that mark that we made earlier. Okay, so now I'm going to stitch across. It's okay if you catch a little bit of this. It's okay. It won't hurt anything. Try not to catch any of the batting. It'll really put a lot of bulkiness in your seam, and it'll be hard to press. All right, now, I just ran over a pin. Okay, now we're going to take this over to this ironing board. Okay, now that you've got that stitched, I'm going to bring it over here and you're going to open this up. You want to make sure you get it all the way open, so we're going to press it from the back. We're going to turn it over. We're going to open this seam. Press it open. A little bit of steam. Let it cool for a second so you don't burn your fingers. Then you're just going to take this and you're going to flip it up and over. Press it down. Do the same on the other side. Okay. Now we're going to take this and stitch this down. Okay, now we're ready to stitch this down. But since most of you have a smaller throat on your sewing machine, this is going to be bulky to stick in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold this down and over, and we're going to pin this. And I'm going to show you, put that point of that pin back into the batting so that as you're handling it, you don't catch your finger on it. Again, and push the point back into the batting. Okay, now this will easily slide through your machine. So we're just going to top stitch this. Right on the edge. If it starts to slip a little bit, just ease it back in there. Turn it around and do the other side the same way. And just stitch it down. Once you got that done, you're going to put these into strips of 3. You'll either have 3 or 4 strips of 3. Now you need to start joining your strips. First thing you're going to need to do is make sure you even up your edges. So I just take a straight edge. You can do this with scissors. It's no big deal. It's just easier to do it that way. Then you're going to join these pieces the same way you join the individual pieces. You're going to put back sides together. It's just this time you're going to need to match up these seams. It's very important to match the seams so that when you roll this edge over, it matches. There's a little bit of leeway here. Oh, this one matches up pretty good. If you're a little bit off, just ease it or stretch it or whatever to get, it's more important that these match than if you have a little pucker there. A little pucker isn't going to make that much difference. Then again, pin it just like you did the individual pieces. And I give it a couple of extra pins at each spot. Then we're going to stitch this down just the same 1 inch seam allowance that we did joining the blocks. Okay, now you're ready to stitch this. We're going to stitch this exactly the same way we did the individual blocks. We're just going to stitch down. Okay, just like we did the other ones, we're going to open this up, press it from the back. And steam helps. Press your seam open. I see where I caught a little bit of the batting here. I mean, it's okay, but you see how it doesn't want to go, it doesn't want to fold over as well as the other spots did. So just a little bit of steam will make that go down. But keep that in mind. It'll be easier if you don't catch the batting. Okay. And then just like we did before, press it down. Those strings will go, well, that one wasn't attached. We'll go back and trim all that up when we're all done. Then we're going to top stitch this just like we did this one, only it's the length. Again, you're going to need to fold this over and pin it so that it stays out of your way. Once you have that done, you're going to join the next one and the next one so that you have your entire quilt put together. Should look like this. And you can see the stitching, the quilting on the back. Now we are ready to do the binding. The self-binding, and we're going to do that basically the same way we did this. We're going to take the edge and press it over. And then fold it over again. Since you're going to go all the way around the quilt, you might want to pin this to hold it in place as you're pinning, as you're doing the other quilting and moving this. Be sure to put your pin points back down into the batting. Just pin at intervals. When you come to a corner, you can just do a squared off corner. That's fine. If you want to do a mitered corner, that's okay too. Either way is fine. Get the rest. Going to do the square corner. Just press this down. And fold it over. Once you get that pinned all the way around, we're just gonna stitch it down. So I don't start at a corner because there's too much bulk. just like we did here, we're just going to stitch it down. You need to kind of keep repositioning it so that the weight of the quilt doesn't drag, which is what's happening here. I'm going to stitch this all the way around. Okay, and as you are coming up to the corners on this, you're going to stitch up to it. Stop right on the edge. You're going to turn your quilt. Then you're going to back stitch. And what that does is that tacks down that edge of the corner. And then you are finished. And there is the finished product. Every quilt has imperfections. This one does too. Don't worry about them. It'll just be loved just all the more for it. So, when you get it all completed, give it a final press. Okay, then you're all finished. You're going to fold this back up so that it fits back into the plastic bag. It came out. It's going to fit. Any of these pins that came with your packet, put them into the little blue pin return. These letters, we reuse them, stick those into the plastic bag. You can even stick this into the plastic bag. Then the marker that we gave, put that all back in. Then, most important thing, this is your inventory ticket. It's a very important piece of our record keeping. We need to know how many people worked on quilts and how much time was spent working on quilts. So you'll notice that it says hours spent and sewn by. If you just want to fill that out, a little safety pin. Just stick it right back in the bag, pinned to the quilt so that it is showing. I don't want it obscured with this bag printing so that we can just pick it up and know what quilt it is. Okay? Put your instruction sheet back in there, along with anything else you might have gotten. Some of our quilts will come with a little tutorial packet. If you need one of these, we can get one to you. It just shows step-by-step making it. If you got one of those, also put it back in the bag that it came in. And stick it in the bag also. You can drop these bags off at the extension office. You can drop them at any of our drop boxes. Or you can give us a call and we will give you information on how to get it back to us. We have more quilts available. Anyone is interested in doing any more. And thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy Quilt As You Go.